So we're here with King Buzzo of Melvins.
Hello.
So I do have basically just one important question. Who is playing bass in Melvins?
Stephen McDonald from the band Red Cross.
Because whenever I look, it seems like there's a lot of people playing bass in Melvins.
We've had quite a few bass players, but we've also had I don't know, about a 39-year career, something like that. 38 years. Yeah.
So for example, if I look on Metal Archives, they do list like two people, I think three people playing bass. Maybe they don't have the most current info.
I don't know who they had. I haven't looked at Metal Archive. I don't even know what it is. So.
Okay, so they mentioned that first up, Jeff Pincus.
Yes.
He's playing bass in Melvins, and then also Steve McDonald's. He's playing bass in Melvins, and Bill Clover. He's sometimes playing bass in Melvins too.
Yes. Depending on how we do it. Jeff, we in 2005, we lost our bass player Kevin Rutmanis to extracurricular activities. That's the best way to put it.
Okay.
And we said, Dale and I said then, that was so difficult and emotionally trying on us that we were very discouraged when that happened. And we said that we're never going to be in a position again where we're stuck in one solid thing. No matter what happens, we're going to continue, And so right after that, we got the Big Business guys, and they were in the band for a long time. And then we never kicked them out or anything. We just started playing at the same time. We told them that we were going to do a record with Trevor Dunn. We did a bunch of different things like that. So at the same time we were doing stuff with Big Business, we did 3 full albums with them. And then we did a record or did some touring with Jeff Pincus. And then we got Stephen McDonald. And Stephen McDonald's been playing with us pretty solid since 2016. So I would say he's the full-time member. But if we needed to do something and he wasn't available, we could do it with Jeff, or we could do it with Trevor Dunn. We have a lot of options. And then Dale plays bass because we also have a version of the Melvins. It's the Melvins 1983 with our original drummer. And Dale plays bass. Dale plays bass instead of playing drums. So he sometimes plays bass too. So there you go.
Okay, so it seems like you're pretty much the only Melvins that member that doesn't play bass.
I play bass on some of the records sometimes.
Okay, that's good to know. So it seems like to become a Melvins member, you need to know to play bass.
You should probably have a decent understanding of most instrumentation that we use. I think it's a good idea. If you can play guitar, you can kind of play bass, but that doesn't really make you a bass player.
Yeah,
I would call myself a bass player. I can certainly play bass, but Steve McDonald's a bass player. Jeff Pincus is a bass player. Dale Crover is not a real bass player. He's a drummer.
Yeah, who knows how to play a couple notes just enough.
He plays pretty good, but he's not. His expertise lies in the drums. He plays guitar good too, but his expertise lies in the drums.
Okay,
definitely.
So for Melvin's 1983, why didn't you just have the both of them play drums?
We could, but it's funner to just have the old guy.
Yeah,
the original.
Yeah. He didn't have any recordings back in 1983, right?
No, we have a demo that came out called Mangled Demos from 1983 that we did. That came out a while ago.
Yeah, that was like a later release of all demos rather than something that was originally released back then.
Yes, it was the only recording we have from then. And then we had people go, this shouldn't have been put out. It's like, you probably shouldn't have been born. If you can, of all the music out there, you're going to pick on this release, That's just up yours.
I'm a fan of archival releases, stuff that maybe it's not out there for musical purposes, but because it's fun to hear how Melvins would have sounded like back in the early days.
Absolutely, and the songs are good. It's not like it's terrible or anything. I mean, it's perfectly good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just we were very young, and I hadn't played guitar very long, and just starting to play the right songs, and
Mhm.
fine. It's not the worst thing out there, that's for sure. It's not our best record, but it's certainly interesting.
Mhm. Is it your
Yeah.
worst?
Excuse me?
Is it your worst then?
Worst record? Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't say. I don't know what our worst record would be. I don't know. It's not for me to decide.
It's not for me either. I haven't listened to all of them.
I would say it's not the worst record. I mean, in the world, you know,
Oh,
and
that's
all
for
the,
sure.
huh?
That's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. So it's there's lots of worse records in that record, but people have a weird attitude towards us. It's strange to me. I don't understand it. You know,
Could you elaborate?
well, they'll get all pissed off about our sense of humor, or they get pissed off about our how we conduct ourselves on record or live or so. And it's just like, why don't you just lighten up, relax? It's fine. You know, there's so many shitty bands out there. Why would you pick on us? You know, it doesn't make sense. None of it. So I don't know. Strange. People are weird. I don't know if you've noticed,
Mm.
but people are strange. Makes no
Yeah, I
sense.
think
to
I
me.
think I noticed that.
Yeah. You know,
But
there's no accounting. There's no accounting for taste. Why? What is good? I don't know.
Yeah, but you also strike me as the kind of band that just does whatever they want to do.
No, bands should do that. I don't know why they wouldn't do that. I've never understood a band that I'm going to do what I think we should do. Well, how do you know what you should do? Just do what you think is good, and that should be good enough.
Yeah, I don't know, but maybe there's some things like fan response to take into account on stuff like this. So a band would find something that really pleases the fans, and they just keep doing that over and over because they can make a living out of it. Otherwise, if they started experimenting, people stop buying their albums, and then now they have to get a day job.
That's not what we're doing. You know, I mean, if you, I and that still doesn't work. There's still bands that we're going to do what we think the fans are going to like. Well, that doesn't always work
Yeah,
because you don't know what fans are going to like. And if you're a band that has a career like us, it's like the fans that are here now are not the fans that were here in the 80s.
Mm.
And probably not the fans that were here in the 90s. So what fans are you talking about that you're trying to please? It's new people. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
people tend to, when they hit about 35 years old, between 35 and 40, they stop buying as much music, they stop going to as much music, they have other things in their lives that they do. That's just how it goes. That's just how life works.
Yeah, but they also have more income that they're willing to spend on music. For example, I don't think I could have afforded to buy a bunch of albums when I was 18 or in
nobody can.
Yep.
Nobody can, but they also don't, you know, most people don't have thousands of records. They just don't. You know, they have a streaming service, or they, you know, have listened to the ones that they already have. They don't spend, you know, I mean, I didn't know anybody that when I was growing up that had thousands of records. I knew they'd have a handful of records, but not massive amounts of them. A few people, but not a lot. So, but those fans, you know, if you're going to decide, I'm going to try to do what the fans would like. It's like, what fans? When? From what era?
You know? Yeah, well, when you have been going for that long,
right? It doesn't make any sense to do that at all. And records that people look at as classics, like let's say the Stoner Witch record, that record didn't get positive reviews when it came out. You know, it didn't sell millions of records. It was, you know, lots of bad reviews. Lots of people didn't like that record. Now it's considered a classic. Time changes things.
Well, the right people liked it at the time, and then they got influenced by it, and then they become big. You're a lot of people's favorite band.
Yeah, we do fine, but I'm fine with that. That's okay. You know, most of the bands that got big by doing something that we're doing don't really sound like us. They're not as weird as we are.
Yeah,
that's for sure. So it's not surprising to me.
Mm-hmm.
We're not that commercial sounding.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine hearing Night Goat on the radio.
Well, we should be able to hear it. and especially on like a Sirius radio, but nobody ever plays that stuff. Yeah,
Mhm.
they should, but I can't make people do anything.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I don't know why they don't. Did you hear our newest record, the 4-album acoustic thing we did? Five-Legged Dog.
I don't have time for that.
You haven't listened to it at all?
I did listen to the acoustic version of Night Goat because I saw that it came out. I saw that it was 2 hours, and I said, okay, I'll listen to it eventually, and that eventually just gets swept up with every Friday with new releases.
Yeah, so you haven't heard any of it, just one song.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
That's the one we're sell right now. So
yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm talking about you with promoting an album that I haven't heard. It's the first time this happens, I swear.
that's not surprising.
Pinky promise I'll listen to it tomorrow.
You can listen to it if you like. It doesn't bother me. I don't care one way or another.
Yeah, but I mean, now the concept is quite intriguing because whenever I think about Melvins, obviously I think about bass and really slow, heavy music, with also cheeky sense of humor sometimes, but somehow acoustic music doesn't really register that much into it in what I think about when I think about Melvins.
Well, when you finally listen to it, maybe it'll come clear to you why it's good.
Mm-hmm.
The acoustic version of Night Goat had bass and guitar in it.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
That's a good version of that song.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Obviously. So I'm also a bit interested in, we were talking about the different lineups that Melvins had, and that you kind of revived the very early version of the band. How exactly did that happen?
Well, I've always been friends with the original drummer, and I'm not friends with the original bass player, so we thought it might be fun to do something like that. And we got together and played some shows when we put out the Mangled demos, and then decided to do some new music. So we did Tres Cabrones album, and then we did Working with God this year. So that's how it worked. We got
so when is the new? Sorry.
That's as close as we'll get to the original lineup.
Okay. So when is the new Melvins lineup coming up? You only have 2. We should have at least 3.
Well, we just had a 4-album record come out, so we'll have a new record before you know it. But that's the second. We did a new album in February with the Melvins 1983, and we just did a 4-album acoustic record in October. So that's 2 in 1 year, a total of 5 albums.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So how's the situation over there? Are you able to tour?
Situation what?
Are you able to tour?
No, not really, not yet. We're playing in San Francisco on the 30th and 31st of this month, New Year's and the day before. And then hopefully we're going on tour with Ministry in the US in March. We'll see. Yeah. It's difficult to know what they're going to do yet. No plans to come to Europe anytime soon.
Yeah, obviously. I don't think
it's a big mess over there, right?
It's kind of a mess, mostly because it's unpredictable in the future.
Yeah.
I just hope that the festivals that I'm planning for in the next year, like Roadburn and whatever, they don't get.
We played Roadburn once, and they've never asked us back.
Okay, I'll ask them why.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't know. Did you crack the wrong joke?
No, we played a show with Blue Cheer. It was really great. Didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah,
the guy from Blue Cheer, bass player from Blue Cheer, died not long after that. So I was glad I got to see them with the 2 of the original guys. And now the drummer's dead as well. So
yeah,
they're all gone. Blue Cheer is good.
Blue Cheer is good, yeah.
Yes.
Since we're on the subject of late 60s bands that were pretty heavy, outside of Blue Cheer, is there anything else you'd like to spotlight right now?
I like the Who. I like Stones and the Beatles and Hendrix, Pink Floyd. James Gang, ZZ Top, even though the early 70s, Moving Sidewalks, 13th Floor Elevators,
Okay.
Johnny Winter, lots of bands, The Ventures, Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, MC5 Stooges, all of it, tons of bands.
Mhm. Yes, like there was a really big explosion in the late 60s that kind of sparkled this heavy music.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I guess so. That's true. I would say the Who were probably the best live band from the 60s.
And
Probably.
half of that was only due to the drummer.
I'm sorry?
Half of that, I think, was only due to the drummer.
That shows how little you know about the band.
I'll have to agree. I haven't seen them live.
Now, you haven't seen them live, and you didn't see them live in the 60s, but
Yep.
the drummer was incredibly good, but live, there was no one close to as good as they were. Not even close. I would say the bass player is arguably the best rock bass player from the 60s, at least. And Pete Townsend is a electrifying guitar player. No question. Both his live antics and the way he plays guitar, I think, is severely underrated.
Yeah, maybe because I have an idea of who that is a bit more modern. I wrote about their latest album recently, so maybe I still have like leftovers from that.
Maybe check out the Live at Leeds record.
Yeah, I think I did once. Where they were saying that they wrote one song about some man that is finding his wife in bed with some other man, and he forgives her. Somehow that predates the Summer of Love thing.
Oh, you're talking about the song "A Quick One."
Yep,
it's a 10-minute song. That's the first band to do that kind of thing. That's an amazing song. Look at that version of the live version from the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus. Look at the Who's version on that. It's also in the Kids Are Alright movie. You watch a Kids Are Alright movie. Just watch that.
Okay,
they did a documentary in the 60s or in the 70s called The Kids Are Alright, late 70s, that I think might be a good starting point, because it has all kinds of old stuff and new up to that point stuff. That was all still when Keith Moon was still alive. So now the bass player's dead as well. But they're definitely my favorite band from the 60s. You know, it's not my favorite band ever. I think a song like "Won't Get Fooled Again" is the best political rock song ever written, by far, without question.
Most likely, I'll have to look deeper into the lyrics, because the song is so electrifying, and a lot of the music that I listen to, like it's just death metal growls and whatever. I kind of conditioned myself not to really listen to lyrics as much, which is really it's a very big downside for me whenever I get to listen to something that's clearly lyrically focused.
You know, the death metal stuff, I kind of got over it probably by about mid 80s. Most of it.
Just when it was starting.
It all just sounds like Bathory to me, and none of it's as good as Venom. So I haven't heard anything past that. We played with a bunch of those bands, like Dark Funeral and a bunch of bands like that. And they were kind of not very threatening and just seemed like a bunch of nerds to me.
Well, I mean, to be honest, if you're not a nerd, I don't know why you're playing metal.
No, just more interested in dressing up than they were in actually playing. So I was like, that's okay. I'm not offended by it, but it's more yawn inspiring than it is awe inspiring.
I don't know. I think it's kind of goofy.
Yeah, it's silly. I mean, it doesn't bother me. It's okay. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's just severely one-dimensional. And it's kind of played out a long time ago.
Well, as someone who listens to a lot of music, I'll have to say both that you're extremely right and that you're extremely wrong.
How could I be extremely wrong?
Well, I mean, it's true that it's very played out, and I listen to a lot of bands that are clearly just trying to rehash stuff that happens years ago, and the way they're doing it is maybe not. It's not extremely exciting, but also I listen to a lot of music, and some of it is really good. Like stuff that's clearly trying to push some boundaries, at least in that direction.
Once in a while.
Yeah, once in a while, obviously happens.
But there's about as many good bands now as there's ever been, which means not very many. Your record collection gets big because time has passed, not because there's so many good bands. There's no era where all the bands were good.
Yeah, obviously.
Never.
But
Never.
Do you think maybe it's easier now to start a band than it was years ago?
I don't know. Why would it be easier?
I don't know. I think it's easier to put a record out. Maybe it's you have access to better software, better more access to gear or whatever. Like you could just record an album in your bedroom, you just put it out.
And it would sound like that too.
Yeah, well, obviously.
It would sound like it was recorded in your bedroom. I think people have forgotten that there was a reason that you went to places to record records, or you hired people that really knew what they were doing. They've kind of lost that idea. And if you talk to mastering engineers, the guy that we use, he's been mastering records since the early 70s. And he says that this era right now is the worst music he's ever mastered in his entire, like sonically, it's the worst he's ever mastered in his entire life, because people are doing it in their bedrooms and don't know what they're doing. It just sounds crazy. It's all out of phase. It doesn't sound right. They mixed it on the wrong speakers to where it's all low end, because they mixed it with computer speakers with no low end. So they're compensating for egos. It's just awful, awful sounding crap. So if you have a good recording, since there's so many bad recordings out there, your band's going to sound way better than most of the stuff that's there. But I mean, good is arbitrary, obviously. But just because you can record something in your bedroom doesn't mean you should. I mean, you can make your own beer at home too. I don't know if you should.
I'll consider making a beer at home next.
You could, but it's so much easier just to go somewhere else and get it.
Yeah, obviously. But you don't have to feel that rewarding thing when you've made your own beer.
I don't drink beer, so I see what you mean, though. It could be you could be making a big batch of poison too.
Oh yeah, but at least I'll poison myself. I won't be poisoned by someone else.
No, you will not. You will not be poisoned by somebody else. No, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it's easier to make music, but you still. I mean, even then they had, we would make demos on little 4-track recorders, and
you'd have a lot of cassettes.
Yeah, stuff like that, and
a lot of it maybe didn't. It's not that there was less music back then, but a lot of music didn't really survive. Let's say.
Most of it shouldn't have survived. It wasn't very good.
Yeah, well.
Believe me, having lived through watching live music since the late 70s, not all of it was good. But you take the good or the bad. Once in a while, good stuff falls through the cracks, and you have find yourself with a gem of a record, and for some reason it's really good, and I don't know why. And then you have bands that can go into an amazing studio and still make a boring record. So it's anybody's guess. I mean, you don't have to have a tremendous amount of recording ability to make something that's good, as long as the music is good to begin with. But I guess that's what my point is. I mean, somebody like Jimi Hendrix would have been good no matter how he was recording.
I can see your point, but I also has happened to me hearing a very good album, but where the mixing or the mastering, it was just complete shit, and it feels so frustrating. That the music's actually good. You wish you could properly hear it, but you don't.
Well, I mean, that's arbitrary. What's good to you is maybe not good to somebody else. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, I'd rather it not be completely bricked.
Yeah, I mean, but there's people that don't mind that kind of stuff. I don't know what's good. What can you can just all you can go by is what you think sounds good. That's it when you're making the records,
Mhm.
and not everybody's gonna like it. I don't know. I don't know how people go. It should have been mixed better or whatever. It's like, well, okay, but maybe it wasn't recorded good from the beginning. I don't know. Or
Yeah.
maybe there's people that think it's amazing. There's records that I hear that I can't understand how anyone could listen to them, and they're so horrible, and they sell millions of records. I don't know why. I don't know why. Like Metallica's "And Justice for All." I think it's a horrible, horrible sounding record. Yet people think it's great. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's one of the worst drum sounds I've ever heard.
Well, maybe
You know,
because that's Lars Ulrich. Maybe this is why it's horrible.
well, his records before that didn't sound that way. You know,
Yeah.
it just sounds awful. I can't listen to that shit. Just god awful crap. But millions of people disagree with me.
Yeah. Obviously.
So am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. Even if millions of people like it, I think it sounds terrible. So, there it is. It's like I can't claim that it's right or wrong. I can claim it just doesn't please my ears. That's it.
Yeah. Well, you're entitled to your opinion.
Yes. I'm certainly entitled to it. Yes.
But okay, what is something that came out lately, like the past 1 or 2 years, that you think is really good, but that is not from a band that was like formed in the 90s or before it? So something that's genuinely new.
Oh, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm blanking. I don't know, but that's fairly common. If you ask me a really good band from the year 2000, I wouldn't be able to answer it either.
I know all good music stopped in the 90s.
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's stuff I like, but I don't know about new bands. I'm just missing it. Oh, there's a band from San Diego I like called Harshmellow.
Mhm.
They're good. I like this band called Side Eyes.
Mhm.
They're like a band from here in LA. I'm trying to think. See, that's what I just there are bands I'm just not thinking of them. Our old bass player has a band called Hepatitis. I like Kevin. So there's three. So that's pretty good. 3 bands.
Yep, pretty good. I mean, but now if I asked you the same question for the 70s, you'd go all out on me.
Maybe. But it just depends on what comes to mind.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I can look at like
Whenever I'm
I can-
asking about favorite bands or from a certain period or something, it's always hard to think of it right on the spot. This is obviously more of an email question where you have time to really contemplate and.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me about the mid 90s or the 80s, I can think of some stuff, but not a tremendous amount. 70s, 60s. Yeah, but I mean, I've been listening to a lot of that stuff since I was 12.
Yeah,
So
obviously,
so-
it makes music usually makes much bigger impact on you when you're a teenager.
yeah, but when you're thinking about bands like that, like what band now that came out in the last 2 years could you compare to Led Zeppelin that was new?
Mm-hmm.
They're as good as they were.
As good as they were.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a really unfair comparison.
Not really. They're a band just like now. It's easy to remember them because they were so good.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no band in the last 2 years that's as good as they were. Who?
I mean, I could tell you some bands
New band that's as good as Led Zeppelin is.
As good as Led Zeppelin is. Well, I can tell you some bands that I think I like more than Led Zeppelin.
That came out in the last 2.
That came out, yeah, in the last 2 years. I think Squid and Black Midi.
I think that you're out of your mind. If you think those
No, but I'm trying to think of what are some bands that came out in the last 2 years that I come even close. That come even close.
Nobody.
I don't think, yeah, maybe.
Nobody. I mean, I haven't even heard those bands, but I think I could guarantee you they're not as good as Led Zeppelin are. Guaranteed. That's not even, you know, I don't even have to think about that.
Yeah.
Either the way you could think that is that you don't really know what Led Zeppelin sounds like. You haven't really listened to them ever. Just made that kind of a judgment on them, which is unfair to Led Zeppelin.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was a punk rocker, heavy metal, but I never stopped liking all that kind of music as well. I
Yeah,
always thought those
naturally.
were great. I always thought that stuff was really good. And I wanted to, you know, listen to other stuff as well as that. But I never lost the idea that bands like The Who and the Stones and Led Zeppelin weren't really good, or Black Sabbath or any of those bands, or the Stooges. Those bands are really good. And then you look for bands that are good as well as that. But you know, in order to be better than Led Zeppelin, you have to be better than Led Zeppelin. You can't just, I just don't like that kind of stuff. So okay, that doesn't mean that they're not better.
Yeah. So at one point you're talking about everyone is being entitled, it's good to you, but then you're saying that Led Zeppelin is definitely better.
They're definitely better. There's no question. You know, I mean, if you're just some dummy that only likes hip hop or something like that, then you're just ignorant. You just don't know. That's it.
Well,
But
what if you're some dummy that only likes 70s rock and roll?
then you're just stupid. Because there's so much more than that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it's better. I mean, a band like Led Zeppelin is like at the top of the heap. They're the best in every way. I mean, if you listen to a song like "Whole Lot of Love," that has everything in it, and that was recorded in the 1960s. Weird noise, psychedelic stuff, crazy great heavy metal riffs, really great lead guitar, great drumming. It's hard to improve on that in the concept of rock music. You know, a Norwegian death metal band is not going to be able to do that. They're just not. There's no way they're going to improve on that song. There's just no chance. No, none of it I've ever heard. I would even put in the same. I wouldn't. Even, they couldn't even kiss their ass. You know, not even close. But whatever. People can think it's better, but it's just not better.
I'll take your word for it.
Well, you need to do a little bit more research in your music in the music department.
Sorry, this is what I do every day. It's just that
You gotta go back. You gotta become a musical archaeologist.
Mhm.
Figure out these
I
people.
obviously I did listen to Led Zeppelin, was one of my favorite bands when I was like 14, 15.
They should still be, as
Mhm.
well as a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, a lot. I do like a lot of stuff from the 60s and 70s. It's just that I don't really listen to it as often as I do, but I can like maybe I haven't listened to Led Zeppelin at all in the past couple of months, but if you ask me, I can instantly just remember the songs, which
Yeah,
is
they're
which is not something I can say for a lot of music that I listen to
right.
otherwise.
Exactly. That's it. That's it. It's inspiring. It's good. It's well conceived and well recorded and well executed, and I will always enjoy it, as well as a lot of other things that the typical Led Zeppelin fan wouldn't enjoy. You know,
Mm.
lots and lots of other stuff, whether it's early 80s hardcore or whatever. I mean, I can like all that stuff as well as Led Zeppelin, because I think it's more broad-minded musically. You know, I mean, if I can listen to and enjoy in the same breath bands like the Beach Boys and Venom, I mean, it's without any trouble at all. There's room for all of it, and country music and everything. I just think there's room for all of it.
Yeah, of course.
But if I have to write down what's the what I think would be the best as far as that kind of stuff goes, they would definitely be up there.
Mhm.
No doubt. It's hard. It'd be hard to dethrone them.
I don't know. I think I like Pink Floyd more.
Pink Floyd are really good. I like both eras. I like the early era, like the Piper at the Gates of Dawn, and I really like the metal album and Dark Side of the Moon. I like all that stuff. And I think Pink Floyd were phenomenal, amazing, excellent, crazy good concept and execution band and they're probably along those lines second to none.
Hmm.
You know, I think that they're probably what Radiohead wishes they could do.
I'm pretty sure that if I asked Radiohead, they'd agree.
Yeah, I would say, you know, it's hard to top that kind of thing. If you're gonna go if you're gonna go, I want to be like Pink Floyd. It's really difficult to do it better than they did it.
Mhm.
You better be really good at it, you know, because their songs were so good that there's just no denying it. You listen to like that, you know, Live at Pompeii. That whole thing it's just really good. It's fucking awesome. I'll never tire of that stuff.
Mhm.
But I'd say the same thing about the Bad Brains or Black Flag or, you know,
Mhm.
any of those bands.
And how much this do you think it is because they came first?
Not much of it, because you know, you take a band like another band I really like is that band Massive Attack.
Hmm.
Really like, especially the Mezzanine record. I think that's a really good record.
Yeah, one of my
Or
favorites.
somebody like Beck. You
Mhm.
know, I can like a couple of his records. I think are awesome. Mutations. I think it's a fucking great record. Really good. But I don't know that, you know, a band like Radiohead. I really, really, really wanted to like them. I wanted to, and tried really, really hard. Saw them live, and they're just not as good. And I wanted them to be. I want to like everything. I want to be absolutely overwhelmed and inspired and in love with every band. It just
Mhm.
doesn't happen very often.
Mhm. So no,
You know,
this is why I'm asking, because if you say that there hasn't been any band better than Led Zeppelin since then, do you think there cannot be such a thing?
there can be, but you know,
People just aren't making good music anymore enough.
if you talk in the realm of like heavy metal stuff,
Mhm.
it's difficult to top them. It's really difficult. A song like Whole Lotta Love is difficult to top. I mean, it goes so many different places and has so many levels in it. If you're just talking about rock music, it's hard to top that. Or a band like ZZ Top. Speaking of top, Tres Hombres record, it's difficult a lot if you're going to play that kind of, you know, funky sort of Hendrixy kind of stuff. It's difficult to top that now.
Mhm.
It's like when I hear these bands, I'll go, I know what they're trying to do. I know all the bands that they like, and they're not
Mhm.
as good as those bands. I like those bands too. So what I've tried to do is take all those influences and do something new with it. Try to do an extra thing, add that I can add my own flavor to, not just try to copy it.
Mhm.
So that's new, going into new territory, which is always hard to be the first one through the wall. It's tough. You're gonna have a hard go of it, but I'm up for the challenge. That's what I want to do. So we operate our band in a way that we would appreciate if we were fans of our band. You know, that's what I would think. I was like, you know, if I was a fan, I would appreciate all the weird stuff that we do. So that's what I'm thinking. I'll go along with what my instincts tell me are correct as far as like what I think is good, and figure that there'll be other people out there that will like it as well. I don't know how many, but if I'm true to that and don't try to go, well, what will they like, as opposed to what would I like if I was a fan? That's what I would like in my musical history. So, um, you know, I think it's a better approach to it. It's not the safest way to do it, but I think it's the most creative and the most honest way to do it.
And the most rewarding?
Um, well, you know, we've been doing it for 38 years, and believe me, in that amount of time, I've seen things come and go.
Mhm.
I've seen people that were, you know, massively into music, not into music at all anymore. And I've seen bands come and go, and trends come and go, and we just keep doing what we're doing. And we've made a massively wide variety of music in that amount of time. And I don't think there's another band that's done anything close to what we've done. Certainly not anything as weird as what we're about, and all the different genres we've covered, and all the different kinds of records we've made, all the different kinds of things we've done, all the different kinds of bands we've collaborated with. There's no other bands like that. Not Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd or anybody. You know, we're doing something that is way beyond all of that stuff. but it's not commercial sounding, and it's difficult to listen to a lot of it, and it's difficult for people to get their heads around, but I don't care. I think it's good. So that's all I can do. It's a tough road to be on. We have a weird band name. We have weird art for our records. We don't fit into a lot of these categories. I've worried over being really good live, and that's kind of where we're at. And we make records, and we make a lot of records, and we make we always have. I mean, I figure that we got put in a position where this is what we do. What we do for a living is we make music, and so as a result of being able to do that, I will do it. I will continue to do it. I will do it as long as I can, as long as that's the case. So I owe it to the general public to go out there and do what I do as much as I possibly can do it. That's my job. That's the deal I made, to be able to play music for a living. I don't think it would work. Yeah, I don't think it would work for me any other way. Just wouldn't work. It wouldn't have worked if we'd have done it a different way. I would not be here 38 years later, It would have been over a long time ago. So bands like Led Zeppelin aren't here. Bands like Pink Floyd aren't here, and we've outlasted lots of bands that were, from the 80s, 90s, 2000s. You just keep moving forward, because we're not part of a scene or any of those kinds of things. We're just not, and never have been. Even during the grunge era, we weren't, this is what we're doing. I never felt a part of that stuff. I never felt a kinship to any of those people or those bands, and they weren't particularly nice to us. We moved on despite all of them. And most of them are dead or have restarted without, we never quit. So that's the difference. 38 years solid.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 25 in a couple of days.
Right. So we have been going for much longer than you've been alive. That's funny. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think it is. Like when I got born, like most of your classic albums were already out there.
That's what they say. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're born in what, 96?
Yep.
Yeah. So 96, we played Lollapalooza in the United States with Metallica and Soundgarden and the Ramones. And the Ramones' very last tour. So that's pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Somehow, this is also an anniversary somewhere around this time, because 35 years ago you released your debut album, which I did, Gluey Porch Treatments.
Oh, Gluey Porch Treatments, yeah, 86 or 87, yeah.
Wikipedia tells me that it was recorded 86, released 87.
That sounds about right. Some of the Wikipedia stuff is questionable, as
naturally, yeah.
Most of the stuff on our Wikipedia page or on my Wikipedia page, no one talked to me about. That's for sure. I don't know where they get all this information, but I just leave it. I think it's funny. I have no interest in going in there and making it real. I mean, as far as personal details about my life, not a lot of it is available to the public.
Yeah, I suppose you should better keep it that way.
Yeah, I think so. They know enough, but I've been married for 28 years, and I like outdoor activities and have dogs and play music all the time. Do all these other. It's a strange existence, but it's something I've done for a long time. So I haven't had a job since 1988 was the last time I worked as something other than a musician. Doesn't mean I had a lot of money, but I was able to make my living since then without help from parents or anything, so. But it's gotten better as we figured out how to do this kind of stuff more and more and more. But no one will listen to me about those kinds of things anyway, so. Doesn't matter. It's weird. People will either think that we're massively wealthy or that we have nothing at all. Like there's
Yeah,
no
it's
in
one
between.
of the two.
Yeah. There's no in between to them. I don't know why.
So
Strange.
I'm looking right now at your page on Metal Archives. It also says that Buzz Osborne is a huge fan of film but never watches TV. How accurate is that?
I don't watch TV. That's true. But I do watch stuff on like streaming services.
Mm-hmm.
But like a regular television, like the news shows, or I haven't seen any of that stuff in decades.
Oh, that's
I have
good
no
because
idea.
it's no good.
Yeah, I don't have any interest. And as far as like regular television, like with commercials, I haven't seen that since the early 80s.
Mm.
When I'm in a hotel or something, I just watch my computer. I have the movies on my computer. I don't watch TV. And like for years and years, I had a little DVD player that I would bring with me and just watch DVDs. And I can't stand TV. It just drives me crazy. Even
Yeah.
on YouTube, if there's a video that has commercials, I just don't want to watch it. I just don't have the patience for it. So I don't know what's on television. Haven't really seen a lot of that kind of things, like the big TV shows that people have seen. I don't have any idea, and I'm not sorry about that. I just I'll watch stuff on documentaries and movies, and I love all that kind of stuff. One of my favorite documentaries lately is that. Did you see that documentary about the rock climber called Free Solo?
I've been meaning to watch it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I heard about it. I think it got nominated at the Oscars.
I think it won, but it came out. I saw it in the theater when it came out, but I've recently been rewatching it. And I find that kind of dedication to your art, which I think rock climbing is definitely an art as well as a sport, because it takes vision to be able to do it. I think that kind of dedication I find to be highly inspiring in your life. Somebody who can be that focused and that have that much of an attention to detail. Also, he says a thing in there that I think is really useful, which he says, because he's climbing a 3,000 foot high wall with no ropes and just climbing it like you'd climb a ladder, and if you fall, you're dead. And he goes, you have to work through the fear until you are no longer afraid. And I think that's stuff like that, I think is very useful for people in their life. If they, if you could take stuff away from athletes and sports people and get that kind of dedication, I think it's important. And I want to be inspired by that kind of thing, whether it's a tennis player or I don't watch tennis, but like someone who does stuff like that, I want to watch it, or a professional athlete and their dedication towards that, and I want to apply it to my own life. I think it's important to branch out and look at stuff like that. I think it's really, really interesting, highly inspiring, and very important.
Okay. So I'm not really sure. I have written 3 questions for this interview, and I only asked one of them because we just got derailed in the conversation.
That's what I always do.
Yeah, well, I think it's better this way because
What
what we talked about is better than my last 2 questions anyway.
What are the last 2? I'll answer them anyway.
Okay, so about the grunge wave, do you think there are some bands from the late 80s that got swept up and lost to time by the big names that got very relevant, but maybe some of them were good, but they just didn't make it? And
one of my favorite bands from that era in Seattle was this band called the U-Men.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked them a great deal. And another band was this band called Malfunction. They were kind of a punky sort of glam metal band, and their singer was in he went on to be in Mother Love Bone, and then he overdosed on heroin. I thought they were really good. Those are 2 of my favorites. And the Wipers from Portland, Oregon. I think they're one of the greatest bands ever. I think that they're certainly one of the most important bands in the from the Northwest area of the world in the United States. And if you haven't heard that stuff, we did a cover of one of their songs, Youth of America. Listen, they have an album called Youth of America. I would highly recommend it.
I think I did listen to it a while ago.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think that stuff is really good. And I saw them live a lot of times then in the early 80s, and they were tremendous. They're one of my favorite bands ever, by far.
Okay, I'll take this recommendation to heart.
Yeah.
And
And the Youth of America and the Over the Edge album, both of those albums, I think are tremendous records.
Okay. And now the last question: what would it take for there to be a new Fantomas record?
Mike Patton would have to do it. I don't think it will ever happen. So it's his deal.
Okay.
I had nothing to do with writing the music or deciding how we were going to do stuff at all. So I don't know why he just didn't want to do it anymore. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, we never, that's it, never broke up or anything, but
yeah, you still appear as active everywhere. You just left it off.
He's a frustrating person to work with. That's the best way to put it. And right now, he has canceled all the Mr. Bungle stuff that was coming up and all of the Faith No More stuff that was coming up for a wide variety of personal issues. So I think Fantomas is the last thing on his mind. I mean, they canceled all the Faith No More stuff. They had tons and tons of shows for the next year, and they just canceled all of it. So there you go.
Okay. And finally, the last question. If you could get any living director to direct a music video for Melvins, who would it be?
Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson. Got it.
Did you watch it? That's the new Beatles documentary, which is really good.
Yeah, I should watch it. Get Back, right?
It's really good. 8 hours long, 3 parts. I would highly recommend it.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, really good insight into those guys. I love the Beatles, so I was very excited about watching it. And, it was worth every minute of time I invested in it. I'll watch it again. I watched it a couple times so far through. Not all in one setting, but almost. The first one I watched probably in a couple days. You know, I watched the first part of it, and then I went golfing. And the whole time I was golfing, all I could think about was getting back and watching the rest of it. It's really good. It's really good. Peter Jackson did such a great job on it. 4 years of work on that thing, you know. And they restored all the film, so it looks like it was filmed yesterday.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy, and I can't imagine what kind of shape that stuff would have been in. 50 years old. Film, 16 millimeter film or whatever it was, but it looks unbelievable and it sounds great. And it's really, really cool. So there you go.
Okay, so I think this is about it. Do you have
All right.
any last words for our fans?
No, thank you for the interest. I appreciate it.
Okay, so have a nice rest of the day. I mean, for you it is quite a long rest of the day. For me it's
middle of the day.
Yeah.
All right, talk to you later.
Okay, bye.